Hello and welcome to Hobby Homies. We are your weekly tabletop podcast. I'm Shane. As always, we're hanging out with Fox.
Howdy, my friends. Howdy.
Howdy and cheers.
Sorry, I froze. Yeah, I just remembered that there's people listening, not watching. So I did
Yes.
the classic Zoom freeze on Shane just then,
Yep.
where I sat completely still with a blank smile and stare on my face.
Motionless. Yeah.
Did it get you for a sec?
It kind of did, yeah.
Okay,
and
cool.
especially because I cheers and then I looked like a fuckhead.
Because I didn't cheers back. Yeah, it was perfect.
But everyone listening has probably turned it off because they've gone, oh, it's corrupted or something.
Yeah, they're like, oh, is this buffering or something? Or is this just the podcast? Yeah,
because
cheers,
we know,
homie, cheers.
We know 2 seconds of silence is an eternity when you're listening to something. So,
especially us. So.
Yes, yeah. So today we are taking our part 2 in the H.P Lovecraft little deep dive.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited for this. Before you get into it, I just want to quickly let you know this episode is brought to you, listeners, by our Patrons.
Yes, it is.
Continued support keeps us, they're like little defibrillators, keeps us going. Their support keeps us on life support.
Keeps the heart of the podcast just
pumping.
Enough to stay alive to get to hospital.
Exactly. We're in hospital. So if you listen to our podcast at all and want to get around the support as well, for as little as, I think we've got a new tier for $2 a month.
$2.
You can get early access, extra entries to every giveaway we do, which is actually a lot, at least 2 a month, as well as an exclusive giveaway to all our patrons.
Yes.
Discord roles and more. So just our Patreon, you can access via our hobbyhomies.com. There's a little button for it. Click that, suss it out, let us know.
Yeah.
Now, Shane, last time you did, a deep dive into Lovecraft. It was his early life.
Yes.
So I'm guessing, you haven't alluded to this at all, but this quite possibly could be his later life?
You would be correct.
Oh, thank goodness. I was holding my breath.
It was a 50-50, dude. Either is or it isn't. So you...
I was always going to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 100% always 50-50.
Now, it's been a minute. It's been a couple of weeks. Can you tell me what you remember from episode 1? Because
wow,
I know Lovecraft has been something that you're not really familiar with. So I'm going to test you right now and just ramble off whatever you can remember.
Sure. To be honest, I don't remember much about his actual life itself, but more, it felt like he had quite a disturbed... Remember there was a loss there. Was it his mother who was basically his only confidant? He was quite isolated and really his mother was almost his only friend. And then he lost her and maybe he kind of went off the rails, or that's where the darker part of his work started. That's all I can really remember.
No, that's pretty much it. He had a lot of loss. He had his father when he was very young, 5, I think, off the top of my head, and his grandfather as well, who became the sort of the key male role in his life. And then his mother in his late 20s, I'm going to say off the top of my head. So a lot of hits very early, which definitely could have contributed to his feelings and his emotions and mental state, which would create such a unique universe, I guess. So
where did do you remember where you left us off last time? Where did you get, what was the last?
Absolutely. So
I will well worth the Patreon dollars right here.
Okay, so it is absolutely necessary for the safety of mankind that some of the Earth's dark, dead corners and unplumbed depths be let alone, lest sleeping abnormalities wake to resurgent life and blasphemously surviving nightmares squirm and splash out of their black lairs to newer and wider conquests. So, in the previous episode of the series, we talked about the early life and works of H.P. Lovecraft. This episode, we'll be going into the works Lovecraft became known for and his later life.
Interesting.
Where we left off... No?
Sorry.
Yeah,
what
go.
Was his earliest works? I'm just trying to remember, because I remember last time I was like, there were short stories, I believe, and I was like, oh, sweet, I'll grab an audio book, 10 minutes, I can do that. Never did it. Do you remember the names of a couple of his earlier stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. One of his earliest and probably his most popular early works is a story called Dagon,
Dagon.
which goes for about 15 minutes. I'm going to say off the top of my head, the audiobook. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah.
Sorry for that interruption. I just
No,
wanted to
don't be
remember
sorry.
one of the titles.
Don't be sorry. It isn't quite set in the Cthulhu mythos, but you get the H.P. Lovecraft vibes from the get-go. So, awesome place to start. Oh, got to give me a sip of that.
Well, get a long straw, dudes. Poke it through the screen.
One day we'll have that sort of technology. Where we left off was Lovecraft's mother, Susie, had been admitted to Butler Hospital and died due to complications after surgery only 5 days prior. Lovecraft was struck and wrought with despair, though he soon came to relief as he was able to live independently from his mother. That was a good pour, dude.
Thanks, man. I was just trying to see if it came up well. It's almost millimeter perfect.
Yeah, and it's nice and hazy too.
Thank you.
For those listening and you want to see this, check out YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a sub. Give us a comment.
Yeah, if you can sub, that'd be great. Like if you can get your like partner's phone and sub with theirs, and probably like your mum and your dad's phone and brother's phone, just click sub on even strangers in the bus. That's fine.
We're going for
the numbers.
We're going for PewDiePie's numbers. We absolutely are. We think we're pretty much the best entertainers in the world. So
gotta be.
We gotta
be. So he soon came to relief as he was able to live independently from his mother. His physical health began to improve, but he was unaware of the exact cause. He continued to attend amateur journalist conventions where he met his future wife, Sonia Green, at one convention in July.
That's good. I was a little bit worried for the lad. Happy to hear he got married. Yeah. Curious about what kind of character Sonia was.
She seemed kind of normal.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah. Lovecraft's aunts disapprove of his relationship with Sonia. I couldn't really find any reason as to why.
She's not normal.
She did have a desire to relocate to Brooklyn. So maybe taking their nephew away was kind of one thing that they weren't a fan of.
Yeah, especially when I assume they would have probably been quite involved with their nephew.
Yeah.
Supporting him through all his many losses.
Absolutely.
Almost would have felt like their son, their
basically. Yeah. Yep.
Damn it, Sonia, you bitch, don't take him away. Wait, was that a name? Sonia?
Sonia. Yeah, Sonia.
Cool.
Yeah. So Sonia thought she needed to leave Providence to flourish and was willing to support Lovecraft financially. He was fascinated with New York City, where he acquired a group of encouraging and intellectual and literary friends who urged him to submit some of his stories to the publication Weird Tales. Its editor, Edwin Baird, accepted many of Lovecraft's tales, including Imprisoned with the Pharaohs, which was ghost-written for the famous escape artist and stunt performer, Harry Houdini.
Love me some Houdini, man. I'm such a Houdini buff. That's very cool.
That's a book that he released, which was ghostwritten by H.P. Lovecraft, which is pretty insane.
That's awesome.
Because ghostwriters are normally no names, and I mean at this point he was, but like
totally.
Yeah, it's insane.
That would have been cool to later down the track maybe drop that truth bomb, be like, oh yeah, you know that book by Harry Houdini? I ghost wrote that.
Yeah.
Be like, what?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I imagine that was a thing of the time that would have been news, drama, I don't know. 7th page of the New York Journal. It's like, oh, there you go. H.P. wrote that. That's interesting. Yeah.
This group of writers, informally known as the Kalum Club, was established some years before Lovecraft arrived in New York City. Some of the core members were boys' adventure novelist Henry Everett McNeil, the anarchist writer/lawyer James Ferdinand Morton Jr.
We've always got 3 names. That's how you know they're good.
Junior, I mean, is that 4? Maybe.
Yeah,
it is. And poet Reinhard Kleiner.
2-named poet. Disgusting.
Get out of me with your 2 names.
Yeah, we're going to replace you with HP. Oh, wait.
On the first day of the new year of 1925, Sonia moved from Brooklyn to Cleveland, a trip of nearly 500 miles, or 800 kilometers for those who use the metric system, superior system, for a job opportunity, and Lovecraft left their apartment for a small first-floor apartment on the edge of Red Hook, a small neighboring suburb in Brooklyn, which would come to discomfort him greatly. Later that year, the Kalum Club's regular attendees would be joined by Lovecraft, his protege Frank Belknap-Long, bookseller George Willard Kirk, and Samuel Loveman.
They always finish off with a two-name pleb.
True.
It's three name, two name.
I've got a system. I'll work on it though. Next time I do something like this, I'll make sure they're all three names. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't want to know about any two-name scrubs, dude. What is that? They're nothing. I need to know three names minimum.
Yeah.
If there is some god out there with four names, apart from old mate Junior, I want to know about it. I want deep dives on every. No, that's fine.
Not long after their marriage, Sonia lost her business and her assets disappeared in a bank failure.
I wonder where her assets went. HP.
Bank failure.
Bank error.
But not in your favor, so do not collect $10.
Wait, does bank failure mean she had her money in a bank that collapsed?
Yeah, so basically when a bank takes your money, they reinvest it to make money, right? So if they lose all their money on bad investments, they can't repay their creditors or their debitors, right?
Sure.
So they just say, sorry, we're shutting the doors and your money's gone. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know?
Yeah, it's pretty nutty, but the joke's on them because I have their money, I guess, on account of having crippling mortgages.
I mean, I suppose, but the thing is, like, if you lose that money, you can't just say, sorry, my bad. Or if you die, they'll, like, go after your son.
Yeah,
so, and I know he's like,
watch me.
2, so not even 2.
He'll put up a fight. He'll give them the goo gagas. They won't know what to do.
True.
That's not a legally binding contract. Yeah, wow. So she legit just like by no fault of her own lost her money.
Yeah,
the bank lost her money.
Her business sort of failed, and then like what she had in the bank just evaporated. So,
damn.
Yeah, kind of like
Sounds
getting kicked while you're down, you know?
It's kind of like getting Mount Goxed with your Bitcoin.
Sure.
Which, judging by your reaction, is... So, never mind.
I don't even have got time for a deep dive into Bitcoin.
I'll tell you in the beers and banter. We'll talk about Bitcoin and beers and banter.
Okay. So Lovecraft made efforts to support his wife by working regular jobs, but his lack of work experience meant he lacked the necessary skills. You know, he'd never really worked a day in his life. He'd always just lived at home. His parents were wealthy. His grandfather was wealthy for the early years. He didn't need to work. You know, he had a library with 1,500 books in there. Like, who needs to work when you've got a fucking personal library? Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, I would. You replace library with room full of hobby, and that's as if we would work.
True.
We'd just hobby all day.
Yeah.
If we didn't have to work, we wouldn't. No one would.
No, of course not. The publisher of Weird Tales was attempting to turn the loss-making magazine around and offered Lovecraft a job as editor, in which he declined, due to his reluctance to move to Chicago. The job was quickly accepted by Farnsworth Wright. And let's just say he looks like a Farnsworth.
Oh, really?
Before you derail the episode and Google him, I am going to send you a picture of him. So
thank you. Thank you for having that ready. And you couldn't be more correct. He stands at a cool 9 foot tall, wearing pinstripes.
Yep.
And that's a Farnsworth, dude. That's a sneaky, slimy Farnsworth.
Yes.
He would take the job. That's so Farnsworth, man.
Yeah.
If I could describe him in one word, Farnsworth.
Farnsworth, yeah. He rejected, whose writings Lovecraft had criticised. Lovecraft's submissions were often rejected by Wright, although after Lovecraft's death, Wright accepted many of the stories he had originally rejected. So jumped on the bandwagon like he wouldn't believe.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've always loved Lovecraft. In fact, before me, he was just called Craft. That's how much I love him. We were best mates. Yeah. That's Farnsworth to a T.
That's him. Sonia soon became ill, and after recovering, she immediately moved to Cincinnati and then back to Cleveland as her employment required constant travel.
Wow.
Adding to his failure in a city with a large immigrant population, Lovecraft's single-room apartment was burgled, leaving him with only the clothes he was wearing. In late August...
Can this man get a break?
No, it doesn't seem he can.
It would not appear that he can participate in said break.
In late August, he wrote The Horror at Red Hook, which is a transitional tale situated between Lovecraft's earlier work and the Cthulhu mythos. Although this story depicts a sinister devil-worshipping cult rather than the cosmic threat depicted in his later works, it is believed that this story was an attempt to widen his markets in pulp magazines. The narrator in this tale says, "My coming to New York had been a big mistake. For whereas I had looked for poignant wonder and inspiration, I had found only a sense of horror and oppression which threatened to master, paralyze, and annihilate me."
Wow.
This was an expression of Lovecraft's despair of being in New York City, and it was near this time that he wrote The Call of Cthulhu, with the theme of insignificance of all humanity. By 1926, Lovecraft had moved back to Providence and lived with his aunt in a spacious Victorian-era wooden house until 1933, where he moved to 66 Prospect Street, which would become his final home. His move back to Providence brought some of his most prominent works, including The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, and The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Even he knows the key to a good title is 3 names. The Case of, what was it? Charles Dexter Clark?
Dexter Ward.
That was close.
Yeah.
Good. But it was Charles Dexter Ward.
Yeah.
3 names.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back to that time where we call everyone by their 3 names, because most people still have them.
Yeah.
What's yours, Shane?
Christopher.
Shane Christopher Grossetti.
Yes, it is. Except that Italian.
It only got Italian after Christopher.
Yeah. Well,
and about
Mr.
the
Hugh.
R of Grossetti. Yeah. Yes, Michael Hugh Fox.
Yeah.
No, Michael Hugh Fox. Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. I would also like to bring back the nomenclature of just naming the kid the same name as you and calling them the second or junior.
Oh, this man! I wish I was at the second or a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe my next son will be Michael Fox the second.
Yeah.
But then my first son will be like, why not me?
Why? Yeah. Well, I was a firstborn son. Yeah. It's a whole
true.
can of worms.
I've missed my chance, haven't I?
You have. No, you can rename him, can't you?
Yeah, for sure. Hang on, let me Google this. What's the process?
Wait for the beers of banditude, then we'll go through the process of renaming.
If anyone knows the process of renaming a family member that you are the guardian of, just hit us up in the comments on the YouTube. Send me a link.
He's under 2.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Sure
it's not
it
like he knows.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. Well, he knows, but he'll relearn. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like
What were
a
we
dog.
talking
You could, I don't know.
Lovecraft. So he wrote The Case of, I've already forgotten his name, something
Charles
Ward.
Dexter Ward.
Charles
and
Dexter
The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Mm.
The Call of Cthulhu. As much of the works of H.P. Lovecraft, this story is no different. It comes through as a recollection of events as if read by a narrator. Francis Wayland Thurston recounts the discovery of various notes, 3 names, left by his great uncle, George Gummel Angel. 3 names. It's a trend, dude. It's a trend. Yeah.
No doubt.
A prominent professor of Semitic languages at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, who died mysteriously in the winter of 1926 after suspecting eldritch events at work. Lovecraft had a disturbing dream in 1919 and wrote about it in 2 letters to his friend Reinhard Kleiner. In his dream, Lovecraft is trying to sell a sculpture he made to a museum of antiquity.
A museum. What did you say? I can't even say what you said.
It is true. I started speaking Lecky and then...
Yeah, that was right. But it also felt like what would be the name of someone who works at a museum? A museoir or something?
Yeah.
Like a museum connoisseur.
I'll start that sentence again and I don't know, maybe Churchy will edit it out or maybe not. Who knows?
He's not going to do it. Bro, it's 19 minutes into the episode. He was gone 18 minutes ago.
Of course. He's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Lovecraft is trying to sell a sculpture he had made to a museum of antiquity. The curator argues with Lovecraft, asking how he could try to sell something new to a place that values antiques. Why do you say this thing is new? The dreams of men are older than brooding Egypt or the contemplative Sphinx or garden-girdled Babylon. And this was fashioned in my dreams, Lovecraft remembers saying in his dream.
Interesting. Wow, that's some Inception level stuff right there. So he had a dream explaining about how he's made this thing that was from his dream.
Yeah.
And his justification to selling it to an antiques place, even though it was brand new, was that the thoughts of men are old.
Yeah, pretty much.
Imagine that.
Yeah, it's like,
imagine trying to submit my brand new laptop to an antiques and be like, yeah, but like the person that made this, their thoughts were old.
Yeah.
So this is an antique.
Aren't all mankind's thoughts just old? So this is antique.
Was Lovecraft on another level, or was he on a different planet? That's the question.
Yeah. Yes.
But to his credit, this was in a dream, and the dream fox is very different to real fox in that he punches very weakly.
It's like you're in underwater.
Yeah, I know. I can't even beat up.
I hate those dreams.
Oh man, they're the worst. Or when you're trying to run and you're slow.
Yeah.
It must just be. Anyways,
it's got to be something.
It's got to be something. It's a survival thing. We're scared of our own weaknesses, which is our inability to run or punch.
Fair.
Our two strongest traits.
Of course. It was likely that Lovecraft drew on many different literary forms of inspiration to create Cthulhu. Works such as Alfred Tennyson's 1830 Sonnet, The Kraken, and William Scott Elliott's 1896 The Story of Atlantis are both probable influences for Lovecraft.
There you go.
The Horror in Clay is the first chapter, which concerns a small, low-relief sculpture found among the notes, which are described. My somewhat extravagant imagination yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature. A pulpy, tentacled head surmounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings. The sculpture is the work of Henry Anthony Wilcox, a student at the Rhode Island School of Design, who based his creation upon a delirious dream of great cyclopean cities of titanic blocks and sky-flung monoliths, all dripping with green ooze and sinister with latent horror. Wilcox references Cthulhu and Riley in letters he had written.
I am trying to picture Cthulhu. I don't even know how to say it, to be honest with you. Cthulhu? Cthulhu.
Yeah. There's different ways of saying it. Cthulhu,
Sure.
Cthulhu. There's,
Yeah, I've always said Cthulhu, but that's just like, I'd have to type.
Well, when you look at it, it's got the C and the TH, and the trouble is it's a language that is not meant to be spoken by humans. So it's the correct way to say it is impossible. We don't have the capacity to say it. So, like, if Cthulhu heard you saying his name, he'd probably be like, "Oh, these foreigners can't get the accent right," you know?
He'd be like, "Yeah, no, I won't go there." yeah. So, octopus head, dragon wings. Scaly body, you said?
Scaly, slimy body, and massive too. He is massive.
He's a big boy.
Yep.
How massive? And what are we talking
about? Like skyscraper tall.
Wow.
Yep.
Like King Kong.
Yeah, like King Kong. He could probably murder King Kong though.
Oh, wouldn't that Godzilla. Be such a good movie?
If Godzilla and King Kong were on the same team versus Cthulhu, he'd still fucking win.
He'd be like, I thought you wanted a fair fight. Yeah. I imagine that's what Cthulhu sounds like.
Yeah, like some anime, like dumb voiceover. Yeah.
Oh, it's Cthulhu. He's too powerful. Anyways,
Yeah. The story uncovers the origins of the Great Old Ones, Cthulhu, and the cult that worships them. A chant which appears multiple times throughout the story. Bro, now
I want a full podcast, an hour of you saying stuff like that.
Man, I practiced that so many times. Like, I was even saying it to myself today at work, and I swear my partner, he thinks I'm crazy. So
yeah. They took me out there for a second because you were like, my partner, and I was like, Caitlin. You're like, he thinks I'm crazy.
Oh, like, no, my work partner. That's
sure.
That's my.
You're a lawyer. You're an attorney.
Yeah.
This is my partner. He has 3 names.
So
yeah, man, that would have sounded like you were summoning a spell. It did.
Yeah.
That means
in this house at Rylech, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming.
Can you say it
Now,
again?
No, I'm going to put a link in the bottom where a guy on YouTube says it brilliantly. So watch
Wow.
that. Yeah, he says it. He says it like normally, and he says it like a high priest of the cult, and also
Wow.
like an old one, which is sounds like he's drowning. I don't know, but
You know what's going to happen, right? You're going to link that in the YouTube description, and then the very next day, I'm going to replace that link with a clip of you saying it at this podcast. So
if you do that, I'll accept it.
Okay, good. Ollie, can you clip that for me? Make an MP4 and I'll hit you up.
You will now. You will. God damn it.
Yeah.
The protagonist of the story reads an article dated April 8th, 1925, from the Sydney Bulletin, an Australian newspaper. This article reports the discovery of a derelict ship with only one survivor, a Norwegian sailor named Gustav Johansen. Second mate on board the Emma, a schooner which originally sailed from Auckland, New Zealand. On the 22nd of March, the Emma encountered a heavily armoured yacht, the Alert, from Dunedin, a small city in the South Island of New Zealand. After being attacked by the Alert without provocation, the crew of the Emma killed everyone on board, but lost their own ship in the battle.
Wow.
Commandeering their opponent's vessel, the surviving crew travelled and arrived on an uncharted island at coordinates 47 degrees 9 minutes south and 126 degrees 43 minutes west.
That seems very specific.
It is, and that is the entire centre of this Cthulhu mythos. That is where the city of R'lyeh lies, at the bottom of the ocean.
Wow.
Well, I mean, at the top, I guess, because it's sometimes an island, sometimes it's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. What was... so the Emma was sunken and the Alert was taken.
Yeah.
So now, have they renamed it to the...
No, you never rename a ship. It's bad luck.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. I'm glad. That's important because I was actually thinking about renaming my ship, so...
Well, I've just saved you bad luck.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny you say that because the name of my ship is Bad Luck. And I was going to... You have literally just saved bad luck.
Yeah.
I was going to name it to Good Luck because I felt like that was better, but...
Nah, it's terrible luck, dude.
I don't want Good Luck to have bad luck, so it's going to stay Bad Luck.
Yeah. The story concludes with a narrator learning of a cursed voyage of sailors that encountered the lost city of R'lyeh and unknowingly awoke the creature. The first description of Cthulhu compared it to a mountain that walks, and the sailors go on to say, it lumbered slobberingly into sight and gropingly squeezed its gelatinous green immensity through the black doorway. You're laughing at groping.
All of it, man. Okay. Everything you just said.
It was 100 years ago when they wrote this. They spoke differently back then.
Yeah, I expected when they said it was the size of a mountain for this to be a terrifying description. But can you read it again? I feel like they said it was gelatinous. And what was the first description?
It lumbered slobberingly.
That's right, slobberingly. I just immediately imagined a dog with a tennis ball in its mouth. That's not terrifying. Old slobbers over here, lumbering over.
It squeezed its gelatinous green immensity through the black doorway. The stars were right again, and what an age-old cult had failed to do by design, a band of innocent sailors had done by accident. Wow. After vigintillions of years, great Cthulhu was loose again and ravening for delight.
Wow.
Now, I looked up what vigintillions was because I had never heard of it, and apparently it's 10 followed by 63 zeros. That's a long time.
That's quite a while, yeah. That's basically the length of lockdown for us in Victoria.
Yeah. I mean, like, lockdown's longer, but
yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's the closest legible number we have to explain.
Yeah,
the length of lockdown. Yeah. Wow.
Lovecraft was increasingly producing work which returned no remuneration.
Wow.
Affecting a calm indifference to the reception of his works, Lovecraft was in reality very sensitive to criticism and easily went into withdrawal. He was known to give up in trying to sell a story after it's been rejected, though sometimes, as with The Shadow over Innsmouth, he wrote a story that might have been commercially viable, but made no effort in trying to sell it.
Wow.
He even ignored interested publishers and failed to reply when one had written inquiring about any novel that Lovecraft might have had ready.
That's kind of just, I mean, it does seem to be a constant theme throughout history where a lot of people, I would say, are before their time, in a sense. They become famous after they pass, but a lot of the time it also seems like that I guess they just lack they've got such a passion for these things and they're so attached to them. That's where the greatness comes from.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But at
not
the
from making money off it. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So it also seems they're almost disconnected from like making it commercial and business and I don't know during that time as well how saturated that market was, if that just seemed like an impossibility. So why waste your time? I don't know, but seems like a bit of a genius before his time, but also not super interested in commercializing it, I guess.
Absolutely. I feel like he's one of those kind of artists and musicians, like, you know, that they do it for the love of what they do, not to make money and be famous, you know?
Yeah. They don't want to sacrifice any part of what makes it good to them to make to publish it or,
I guess it's kind of before the whole, like, selling out thing, you know? Like, you didn't want to... Yeah, like that's when people view it that as, oh, they sold out. They changed to make money. Like he just stayed doing what he wanted to do and what he loved doing, I guess. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah. A few years after moving back to Providence, he and Sonia, having lived separately for so long, agreed to an amicable. I'm struggling to talk today.
No, you got this, dude. You spoke Rylekian. You could do anything.
Amicable divorce.
There you go.
Sonia had moved to California and remarried 3 years later, unaware that Lovecraft, despite his assurances to the contrary, had never signed the final decree.
Say again, sorry?
So they had gone for a divorce.
Sure.
And he told her that he had, but he never actually signed the papers off.
Oh, so she got remarried despite them not actually being divorced.
Yeah.
So she was technically married to 2 men.
Yeah.
That's the time before the internet.
You could just quickly Google something. You had to...
Yeah. There was no like online form. Yeah. You're like, well, we're in different states. I'm not going to check your paperwork. I don't have time. And
the paperwork you can't scan it to me.
Yeah. You can't fax it even before that. Literally, which is wild to think about. But that document existed only in their state and nowhere else.
Yeah. Yep.
Wild.
Wild indeed. Late in 1936, The Shadow over Innsmouth was published as a paperback book. 400 copies were printed. However, Lovecraft was displeased, as this book was riddled with errors that required extensive editing. It sold slowly, and only 200 copies were bound, and the remaining 200 copies were destroyed after the publisher went out of business. By this point, Lovecraft's literary career was coming to an end. There was a hostile reception of At the Mountains of Madness, which had done, quote, more than anything to end my effective fictional career, end quote. His declining psychological and physical state made it impossible for him to continue writing fiction. Wow. On the 11th of June, Robert E. Howard, who Lovecraft had become friends with mid-1930, was informed that his chronically ill mother would not awaken from her coma. Upon hearing this news, Robert walked outside to his car and committed suicide with a pistol he kept in the glove box. This deeply affected Lovecraft, who consoled Robert's father through letter correspondence.
Wow. Lovecraft just keeps getting slapped with the trauma. So did you say one of his books was so poorly received, one of his writings was so poorly received that it basically ended his literary career? Wow.
Yeah. So that was a story he'd written quite a long time ago, but a lot of his older stuff got republished again in this Weird Tales magazine or Pulp magazine. And I guess that one people didn't like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so. I wonder what I wonder what the reception was. I wonder if it was like controversial in themes.
It's
Lovecraft
possible.
Could well have been.
Yeah.
Very or I wonder if it was just like poorly put together, and they were just like, "This exposes him as a hacker." It's so interesting.
Well, see, he was an incredibly intelligent man. Like he had said that the story that Shadows over Innsmouth was full of errors, but like, I don't know, he was a smart dude, man. He was reading and writing at like the age of 3, you know, and like
Yeah.
I don't think he would have had that many errors. I think his shopping list would have been like, impeccable, like a haiku poem or something.
Yeah. His shopping list would have been a short story
Yeah,
that people
exactly.
interpreted as an actual, you know,
Yeah, what does he
Cthulhu
mean
story.
by soap?
Well,
Hmm.
it means, the cleansing of your previous self.
Yeah,
What does he
exactly.
mean by honey? Well, it just means the new version of you is sweeter and more innocent, but it takes some creation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he mean by dog food? Well, he had a
It
dog.
goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, his own health was deteriorating. Due to his
Mm.
fear of doctors, Lovecraft was not examined until only a month prior to his death, after being diagnosed with terminal cancer of the small intestine. He remained hospitalized and in constant pain until his death on the 15th of March, 1937, at the age of 46.
No, wow, that's real young.
Yeah.
That's real young because the way you were talking about him no longer being able to write, I was like, oh, he's old, dementia. I wasn't
Yeah.
listening to dates.
No.
Old
No.
mate was early 40s at that time.
Yeah, like his illness. The funny thing was though, he kept like a log of everything while he was in hospital until he physically couldn't hold a pen. You
Hmm.
know, he wrote everything down. He wrote thousands of letters throughout his lifetime, um, and yeah, and I think the whole negative reception of mountains of at the Mountains of Madness was a point where he just couldn't write fiction anymore. Um,
Yeah,
and
because
yeah.
earlier you did say how he was so receptive and sensitive to
Yeah.
criticism.
Yeah.
So to have that massive onslaught of, because by this point he's much more well known,
Yeah.
and then he's copping all this flack.
Yeah.
It probably just soured writing in general, and yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow.
Sadly, Lovecraft was relatively unknown during his time.
Hmm.
While his works appeared in pulp magazines, not many people knew his name, and his recognition didn't come until after his death. He did, however, correspond regularly with contemporary writers such as August Derleth, who became friends, although never actually meeting in person. Um, his
Pen
group became
pals.
known as the pen pals. Yeah, 1930s pen pals.
Yeah.
His group became known as the Lovecraft Circle, encouraging each other to freely borrow motifs and creatures from each other's works.
Hmm.
Um, After his death, the Lovecraft Circle carried on, and August Derleth founded Arkham House, a publishing company, to keep Lovecraft's work in print, while also adding to and expanding upon his vision. The
That's
works
pretty
of
awesome.
Yeah, oh, yeah, man, it's insane what he did, and all these different writers that collaborated and have using him not only as inspiration but expanding upon the universe that he created.
Hmm.
Um, the works of H.P. Lovecraft have influenced many writers and creators. Stephen King has cited Lovecraft as a major influence upon his works. Alan Moore has described Lovecraft as being a informative influence on his graphic novels. And John Carpenter's films include references and quotations of Lovecraft fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nuts. Such an
yeah.
influential figure in wargaming, tabletop games.
Oh, absolutely.
And to think at the time he couldn't even sell really 200 copies of one of his books. Could you imagine how much money one of those copies would be
Oh man, if
today?
they hadn't destroyed them, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like at least $1,000, I reckon, because he's not. He's a name that's known, but I guess people probably aren't itching to like collect his things. It's not like, I don't know, like Robert Downey Jr.'s like tea bag or something like that. Like it's just
Sure.
like
Sure. Interesting choice. Interesting choice.
I don't know.
There's a lot of people that would pay a lot of money for Robert
I'm sure
Downey
there's
Jr.'s
some.
teabag. Yeah.
I'm sure there's some. But
Yeah. Yeah.
he's got his like works have inspired so many things. Like, I mean, in our hobby, sure, there's only one I can think of, which is a Lovecraftian, mythos war game. But like, you can just look at so many different miniatures and different ranges, and you can see the inspiration. You can see
Mm.
these creatures and like things like the movie The Thing. Like it's just the horror isn't something like a jump scare, a ghost, or a demon or something like that. It's just something that like makes humanity look so insignificant, and that's the thing of cosmic horror, like just
Yeah.
being like the whole feeling of everything just being so massive, and you feeling like an ant, where you
Yeah.
won't affect anything, or like
It's an
yeah,
existential horror
it is.
met with like I guess his realism that his stories start out with
Yeah,
makes it so relatable too, and that's how you're able to engage with it. Like it wouldn't
absolutely.
feel terrifying if it was this far out, universe. Like if you
Yeah,
look at in our small world, the 40K universe,
yeah, yeah,
and you go, if you were like a regular whatever human guardsman, yeah, you'd feel insignificant,
yeah,
but you're so disconnected from it. You're like, they would feel insignificant. Not
yeah.
you yourself don't. It's not
No,
that immersive because it doesn't have that realism to it at the start. So
no. That's what the story, and it just they progress, and they get more and more. The horror actually begins to unfold, and that's what makes his story so great. Is that, yeah, they start off just like any other story. You could be reading like like a romance novel, and then all of a sudden it just takes a turn, like
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, it's unique, it's unique, and I guess like it still keeps its individuality and its uniqueness, although it's been expanded on countless times, and been reborn, and like I'm not gonna say recreated, because nothing recreates it, but like
yeah,
reimagined, maybe.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. What after doing now 2 deep dives into old mate's life,
yeah.
what what was your biggest takeaway, or maybe the thing that surprised you the most, or the thing that stood out to you from
Mm,
Lovecraft? Or rather, like after doing these deep dives too,
yeah.
do you have an inspiration to go listen to one of his stories in particular, or play a game that's heavily influenced?
I would play a game heavily influenced, like in a heartbeat. Like I listened to so many audiobooks in the process of writing this, and putting all this stuff together, and yeah, like yeah. I mean, I don't know, like it's just a I find it so interesting, and I just, yeah, I froth all of his works, and I haven't listened to everything, but I've listened to the majority of what I've got,
Wow.
which is one little collection. There's a dozen books in there or something like that, and again, they're all short stories. The longest one probably goes for like an hour, but if you've read some or listened to some of the other novels that go for like 20 hours, it's just insane.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. All my
yeah,
books are like, all my audio books are like 20, 30,
yeah.
40 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you look at it and you go, "Who's got the time?" Like,
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I mean, it's the best thing, because like you can be doing other stuff while you do it. You can be driving to work or whatever. It's not like you physically reading that book could take
Yeah.
you, 40 hours. Depends if you read as fast as the narrator does.
Yeah.
It could take you
Yeah.
longer. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, having never listened, read anything H.P. Lovecraft, are his books hard to follow in terms of the the
Um,
older writings in English and terms that they
yeah,
use?
probably the terminology might. It's not like be it's older. You can definitely get the vibe that it's from a different time, but like it's not like you're listening to something that was written like 400 years ago,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
like the writing is
It's
insanely
not in old
different.
English. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, yeah, I think anyone could listen to it and follow along pretty easily.
Cool.
You just have to you just have to listen to descriptions like slobberingly and gropingly, I guess.
Yeah, and you
So
have to not care about his him forcing his immensity into any holes or whatever you
yes.
said after that.
A doorway, but yes.
I believe you said hole, black hole.
I haven't mentioned the word hole at all.
You definitely have.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Definitely.
I'm looking
Read
at
that
the
whole
quote right
sentence
now.
again. Yeah, go.
It lumbered slobberingly into sight and gropingly squeezed its gelatinous green immensity through the black doorway.
The black doorway. That's
Yeah.
right. No, you did say that.
Yeah.
What you said and where my brain went were just
Was whole.
a fork in the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Lovecraft.
So I hope you guys listening and watching enjoyed it. This is something that I loved doing. I've loved doing all these deep dives so far, and look forward to doing more in the future. I need a minute, so
totally. I think maybe I'll grab the next one, dude. It's okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Bloody oath.
I don't know what though. So I mean,
whatever your heart desires.
Yeah. I found the history of Avalon Hill very very interesting, and just
we talked about that in our old school war games episode. So like that'd be sick. Yeah.
I mean, I was about to say, but it's probably too late now, but go listen to part 1 of Lovecraft, H.P Lovecraft deep dive if you haven't already. If you've made it this far, surely you have, or or you like the Star Wars approach where you read the most present information first. That's fine.
Yeah. Trust me, our part 1 is better than episode 1. So,
well, it's a low bar, but also, how dare you? The sequels were incredible.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Old school wargaming. We talked a little bit about Avalon Hill because of one of the games we sussed out. So
yeah.
I could do. Yeah, I'd like to look into that. But also, if you're listening and there's something in the wargaming universe, be it a lore of a particular faction from a game, we don't have to know anything about it. We get so much joy from researching, going to old codexes that existed 20, 30 years ago. Or articles that are hard to find. There's just such a joy in just trying to find information from a time before we were even born.
Yeah.
And using that with contemporary stuff to really nut out, be it the history of a person or a game. So hit us up in the comments, in the Discord, whatever. If you're like, this would make... I'm super interested in hearing more about blah. Let us know. That'd be dope.
Yeah, hell yeah. And you can find links to the Discord on hobbyhomies.com. There's also links there to all our other stuff, like our YouTube channel, Patreon. You can email us if you want to get in touch with us that way. And all of the socials stuff too. Yeah, socials. Yeah.
So there's I feel like there's 8 buttons there. So if you just click all of them and then like and or follow us on each of those buttons.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah.
That basically makes our careers successful.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if someone clicks all 8 buttons, well, one of them is an email, isn't it? Follow us on the Gmail, dude. Click the merch button.
Yeah, we've got some t-shirts on there, hats, and that stuff.
And we got. I haven't even told you, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
We got a new tea coming.
Oh, no way!
It's on the horizon. It's a spicy quesadilla of a tea.
Oh, love that shit.
So we've got our newest tea on there called Just a Schooner, Thanks, which is a beers and banter tea, which is sweet. But we're actually going to start rotating some of our merch too. So if there's anything on there that you think, I might like to grab that, snag it now because it might be gone soon.
Yeah,
it'll be back later.
Maybe.
It's just the way that it works. We've only got so many from our supplier that we're allowed to supply. So one new one, which man, I'm so excited to show you.
I see what you're doing, dude. You took a page out of GW's book and you're creating artificial hype and FOMO. So get those teas before they're gone because they might not be coming back.
Quickly, everyone grab it now. Grab it now.
Get it now.
We can figure something out. Don't sweat it. We're not GW. We're actually forced to rotate our stuff, but we hope to bring things back and whatnot. So
yeah. And buying all that stuff helps us immensely. Like, it's the same as our patrons. We couldn't be doing this to the extent that we are without you guys.
No way.
I got a feeling had these lockdowns continued and we didn't have the support from you guys, even you guys just listening and clicking all the buttons all the time, we wouldn't be able to do this. So we couldn't thank you more.
And if we did, it wouldn't be to the level that it is now. Obviously, we don't think we're some god tier podcast.
No.
We just wouldn't have YouTube the sound quality wouldn't be as good. There's a heap of things that we would have had to sacrifice. In fact, go listen to our earlier Discord episodes in season 1.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you would have gotten for an entire season had it not been for our Patreons. So thank you so much.
Yep.
You're incredible.
I used the microphone on my old Logitech headset, and it sounds like I'm.
Oh man,
I don't know, in like a
we both sounded garbage.
Tin can or something.
I remember recording it and being like, "That sounds good," like compared to what it could
compared
be.
to nothing.
yeah, exactly. And then we went and listened. I go back and listen to it now. I'm like, should we delete these? Or?
Yeah, they should just vanish off everything.
Yeah. Hobby Homies season 1, episode 1.
History's been rewritten, dude.
For sure. So patrons, you're incredible. Yeah.
Massive thank you to you guys. As always, we've got Burnsy, Whack, Final, Joey P, Lockie, MJ, Lethal, Moose, and Penny.
We got Elko, Dave, Churchy, Rad, Oliver, Hockers, Aggro, Gritty. You're all incredible. Once again, thank you so much for bringing this episode to our audience.
Yep.
And also giving, we have so much fun doing these. These are the thing that we look forward to throughout the week, recording these and beers and banter and everything else.
We've also got all our other homies and patrons coming up on the screen. Yeah, maybe true. After I'm saying this. I don't know when Churchy puts it in, but
no one knows when Churchy puts it in, man. You just enjoy the ride.
You join. Oh, hey, that's very sexual. You join our Patreon, and your name could be here.
That's it. You're pointing on the screen, but it literally will be over you. You'll disappear.
Unless I've missed it, or it was like 15 minutes ago, and I'm just...
it's like mid-roll.
Yeah. I don't know what are they talking
about. Yeah, who knows? He's a magical man of mystery and art. He's kind of like H.P Lovecraft.
He is indeed.
Jack Daniel Church, 3 names.
You just doxed him, dude.
He lives at Jack Daniel Church.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging around, especially this long in the episode. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, it's just me and you and me hanging out, dude. All right, now that the episode's over, what do you reckon of Sharpies? Bro, do you have a Sharpie with you right now?
It's downstairs.
Come on, man. That was actually a magic trick.
Yeah, it just vanished.
Gone,
right,
like us.
Peace. Spirit.